Why is somebody telling to you, that is a young boy, that this other person on the market is the commander of the PDF?
In our country, people who are well known or famous or an official or a well-known trader, people tell you, talk about him, and they tell us to respect those people. Well, whether you are young, whether you are old, you have to respect such people, and that's why this person told me this is such and such.
And how come did that mark you and you kept memory of this image of the man on the market years later?
Well, when these things happen, you remember things. It comes back to your memory that I met this person in such and such place.
Do you remember every face you cross on the market for the rest of your life, usually?
I remember this one. I remember seeing him in the market.
Specific sign or characteristic that makes that you were especially marked by the person you saw that day?
At that time, I didn't see any marks on his face or anything like that, but I heard that he has got like a special mark on his ear, and at that time he had some white hair, but not much, just a few hairs. That's all.
And is it the white hair that make that you remembered him forever?
Sorry, what did you say?
The person had white hair that you could remember that person forever?
No, no. No, this is not the reason, but I just got to know him. I remember now that he had some white or grey hair, but this is not the reason.
Did you identify the tribe of the man that was pointed at you?
I didn't come really close to that person, but I know that he is from the Four tribe because he was speaking in the Four language.
So you could hear what that person was saying. We are talking about, yes, I want to clarify. You say that the man that was pointed at and called allegedly Ali Kushayeb was of the Four tribe?
Yes, from the Four in the Garcilla market.
Okay, so the man named Ali Kushayeb on the Garcilla market in 2001 is Four.
What exactly?
that I understood fully, and I do not want to misinterpret you. You are on the Garcilaso market in 2001, and somebody shows a man and tells you that man is called Ali Kushayeb.
Yes, that's correct.
Correct.
He was a person from four. I met him in Garcila's market, and we sat together and we talked and then he is the one who told me this person is Ali Kushayeb.
So you are talking about the person telling you that person is Ali Kushayeb, not Ali Kushayeb.
Really, I think you're just making these worse, Mr. Lauchi. It's really quite clear that you were not loggerheads, at cross purposes. He says the man who identified, if that's the word to use, Ali Kushayeb is Fur. He did not, I think, intend to say that Ali Kushayeb was Fur.
So I will repeat my first question. I go back to my first question. The man called Ali Kushayeb, according to you, what was his tribe?
The person who told me, or are you asking about Ali Kushayeb himself? I don't know really which tribe he belongs to.
You said that you usually can recognize the tribe of a person from Darfur. How come you could not recognize his tribe for that person that day?
I didn't say that I can identify all the different tribes in Darfur. There are so many tribes in Darfur. I can't identify everyone who belongs to different tribes. But Ali Kushayeb, I know him, I saw him, but I don't know which tribe he belongs to.
Okay, I am referring to page 14 of the real-time transcript, and I'm at lines 8 to 11. The question was, are you able to recognize the tribe of someone from Darfur when you see that person? And the answer was yes.
Can you repeat that please again?
And it was a general question, if you are usually able to recognize the tribe of a person from Darfur when you see that person, and your answer this morning was yes.
No, I didn't say that I can identify all the different tribes in Darfur. There are so many tribes in Darfur. I can't really make the difference. There are maybe 60 or 70 or maybe 100 tribes in Darfur.
What if I tell you that according to the prosecution and several witnesses, the man you call Ali Kushayeb was entrusted with a position of authority in 2003 only? And had no position of authority whatsoever in 2001.
I heard that he was working as a coordinator for the Popular Defense Forces in Garcilaso. They are all part of the military forces. I don't know if they are regular ones or not. I don't know.
So I submit to you that you said it was the reason why someone pointed at Ali Kushayeb was because Ali Kushayeb was the commander of the PDF. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. If Mr. Laushi could point out where he said that was the reason, it's not clear to me from the transcript.
Can you scroll up the it was just now.
I ask because I think we're conflating two separate issues. One is the issue of identification and the other is the issue of his position of authority. I don't think the witness has yet made the connection between the two.
This is at page 74.
No, 73.
73?
Line
Propose. Go.
Line 18.
Talk.
Yes, could I just draw everyone's attention to page 73 of the transcript from line 16. Well, I'm not going to read it out, but that's where the reference is found.
And I would add page 74, lines 14 to 15. Is that okay, colleague?
But what he said, Vav, you said you translated coordinator into commander, but he said coordinator, and before that, he said that he was connected with, or words to that effect. But the word he used, or as translated, was coordinator. You then said commander.
Flexible on coordinator or commander.
No, but it's rather difficult. It's rather different.
No, but what I'm discussing is whether this person was pointed at because he had a position of authority, whatever that position is.
All right, and what you're suggesting to the witness is that he never had such a position of authority in 2001.
This is the first part, and I will carry on, because that person had no such authority in 2001. There is absolutely no reason why this person was pointed at on the market in 2001.
That is an argument, but it's not a question. I think the only question you can put to him is, were you aware, sir, that in 2001 he had no such position? He was not in a position of authority.
Well, the answer to this question will be no, I was not aware. I was told something different. I leave it.
Message from the English booth. Could the presiding judge kindly speak into the microphone? The interpreters are having difficulty catching what she says. Thank you.
I move on. You mentioned that you heard that Ali Kushayeb had a special mark on his ear. Can you tell us more about that, please?
I heard that he had a mark on his ear, but I didn't see that by my own eye. It's something that I heard from other people. I think somebody said that he had a hole or a cut, something like that, but it's not something that I saw myself.
Thank you. And in 2001, on the market of Gasila, did anybody tell you about another name that this Ali Kushayeb had?
His real name is Ali Muhammad Abdul Rahman, and he is known as Ali Kushayeb.
In 2001, on the market of Gasila, that you hear it?
These are the names that I heard. These are the names that I just told you about.
I'm asking you when you heard the name Ali Mohammed Ali Abdelrahman for the first time.
He is a very well-known person and he is at a very important position, so everybody knew his name. We have to respect people who are in a position of authority, and we had to know their names and respect them. We had to know their names.
So, do I understand well that the name Ali Mohammed Ali Abdelrahman was given to you in 2001?
Yes, that's what I heard.
Yes. On 5 and 6 April 2022, during that preparation session that you had with the Office of the Prosecutor, and I'm referring to the preparation log DA OTP 0222 5192, and more specifically the page 5199. That is the point 31G. You state that the person you refer to as Ali Kushayeb, as for real name Ali Abdelrahman, and that you knew him under that name as this was common knowledge. So, on the 5th and 6th April, you speak about Ali Abdelrahman, and today, or in your written statement, that is towards the end, paragraph 61, you speak about Ali Mohammed Ali Abdelrahman. How can you explain why one day you speak about Ali Abdelrahman and the other day Ali Mohammed Ali Abdelrahman?
Ali Muhammad Abdurrahman or Ali Abdurrahman, it's all the same name. Whether I said Ali Muhammad Abdurrahman or Ali Abdurrahman only, he is the same person known as Ali Kushayeb.
But the thing is that when you point at him in the preparation session or in this courtroom, you speak about Ali Abdelrahman only without the other parts of the names. Do you have an explanation for that?
It's the same name, Ali Muhammad Abdurrahman.
What was common knowledge that the PDF coordinator was Ali Abdelrahman?
Ali Muhammad Abdurrahman, the person known as Ali Kushayeb, he was working as a coordinator for the defense forces.
This common knowledge, when did it appear?
What? The reason?
Did it become common knowledge that the person called Ali Kushayeb was also called Ali Abdelrahman?
In the market, people talk and they said this person is called Ali Muhammad Abdurrahman and he's also known as Ali Kushayeb and he is a PDF coordinator. People were just talking amongst themselves and I learned about that there when I was in the market in Garcilla, and also after that I heard people talking about him in other places, and they spoke about the fact that he has got some kind of a position.
What is the reason why at paragraph 61 of your written statement the four names Ali, Muhammad, Ali, Abdelrahman appear instead of just Ali Abdelrahman?
Maybe that's a problem with the language, or the person who was writing misunderstood me, but I always gave the same person, just one name. It might be a language problem, but I always gave one single name.
And is it the name that you gave on the 5th and 6th April, Ali Abdelrahman?
Ali Muhammad Abdurrahman, this is the name that I gave.
When you met with the investigator of the prosecution to take your written statement that you signed, who pronounced for the first time the name Ali Muhammad Ali Abdelrahman? Was it the investigator or was it you?
I think maybe it's a problem, a language problem between Arabic and English. I was giving some information, maybe it wasn't understood correctly, maybe there was a mistake, but I didn't change the name. I know that I gave only one name. I didn't change the name.
In the, can we go to the screening notes, please? DA OTP 0215 5313 R02 on page 3. Excuse me, I need a minute. Here it is. So in these notes, which are taken on the basis of the phone call that you had with the investigator, you are talking about Mukjar, and when you were detained, that is in 2003, and you say that you did not know him, talking about Ali Kushayeb. So I will quote exactly. P0903, that is you, did not know him from earlier, but the people in prison with him told P0903 that this individual is Ali Kushayeb.
When I was in prison, yes, I knew Ali Kushayeb. Other people also knew Ali Kushayeb in prison.
You said you did not know him by then, and it was the first time you saw him.
No, I didn't say that I didn't know him when I was in prison.
Witness that I have to ask you the question. When is it the first time you saw Ali Kushayeb? Was it in a crowd market in Garcilla in 2001?
Yes, in the market in Garcilla, that was the first time.
Were hiding behind rocks after the second attack on Tendi on 25 March 2004?
The witness has already answered that he saw him in Garcilla. I'm not sure what the purpose is of continuing.
I accept it was pure rhetoric. I move on. Did the man you call Ali Kushayeb play a role in your arrest in Mukjar?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Call Ali Kushayeb play a role in your arrest in Mukjar?
Again, I think you need...
I didn't see him. I saw him only when he was outside the door and he was taking people and putting them in the vehicles. This is the day when I saw him.
Because that could mean when he was actually arrested as opposed to when he was in prison, but he got the idea.
Did the man you call Ali Kushayeb play a role in the torture you endured in Mukjar?
No, he didn't come inside the detention room. I didn't see him coming inside the prison.
What was the man you call Ali Kushayeb wearing when he was standing in front of the prison cell in Mukjar?
He was dressed in civilian clothes.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. And since we are still in the screening notes, in your discussion on the phone with the investigator, you said that on that day in Mukjar, Ali Kushayeb wore a khaki uniform.
Message from the interpreter. I didn't get what the witness just said.
Witness, can you repeat? The interpreter did not get you.
It was khaki, but it was civilian. What the government officials wear.
So now you say he was not wearing a uniform, right?
No. When he was standing outside the prison cell, he was wearing some kind of formal clothing, but it was civilian.
I move to the second time you crossed Ali Kushayeb. No, maybe not the second, but the second time you crossed him in Gasila in 2010, and that is at paragraph 27 of your statement. What were you doing in Gasila on this occasion?
There was someone who was not well that I took to the hospital, and I saw him in the hospital. He was dressed in a jalabiya and a turban. I don't know if he was visiting the hospital or visiting specific patients there. I don't know.
Yes, I will ask you a question which I would prefer you to answer in public session, but be mindful when you answer not to say which country I'm talking about. But my understanding is that in 2010 you were living in another country. You were no longer in Sudan. Please, if what I ask you, the answer is yes, say so without naming the country.
Okay. I didn't understand really what you said.
Were you still living in Sudan?
No.
Thank you. And what if I tell you that the man that is sitting at the rear behind me and who you say is called Ali Muhammad Ali Abdel Rahman and was nicknamed Ali Kushayeb by the time, what if I tell you that that person was no longer in Gasila in 2010, but was living, I would say, rather far away, even though it's still in Sudan, but is in his home city in South Darfur?
In 2010, I saw him by my own eyes in the hospital. I was inside the hospital and he walked into the hospital and he was wearing jalabiya and a turban. That was in 2010.
So if I resume, neither you nor him were living in Garcila, but on that day of 2010, you say you met him in the hospital in Garcila. I have a very, I would need 2 minutes of closed session, Madam President, and after I will be done, I will move to my conclusion.
Microphone, please, Judge Corner.
Yes, we will go into private session. Thank you.
Back in open session, Madam President.
Mr. Witness, I reached the end of my cross-examination, and I will state some conclusion that I am making on the basis of what you said, and I will just ask you to say whether you agree with those conclusions or do not agree, without need for saying more. Is that clear? I submit to you that your total lack of knowledge about the rebellion is not credible and gives reasons to believe that you have reasons to hide your actual knowledge about the rebellion. Do you agree with that?
I don't know anything about the rebellion. I heard about it in the mountain of Marra, but in my village I didn't see any rebellion.
Demonstrated extensive knowledge of weapons, your willingness to deny knowledge about the rebellion gives ground to believe that you were an active member of the rebellion by 2003. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think you better describe what you mean by an active member. Do you mean actually taking part in acts of violence?
Participating or supporting the rebellion. Were you
I have nothing to do whatsoever with the rebellion. I didn't support it and I don't know anything about it.
I submit to you that your version of what happened in Mukjar and possibly in Tendi relies on the discussions you had 12 years later with various persons and not on what you witnessed personally.
I was in an area as just a very simple person. I didn't know anything about rebellion or any military operations. I was just a simple farmer, and then the attack happened and I escaped. But as for any kind of military operations or rebellion, I didn't know anything about it. But I heard that there was a rebellion in Jabal Marra, or the mountain of Marra. That's what I heard.
I submit to you that you could not have compiled lists of victims and offenders, as you said, because you don't know how to write.
It is true, I can't write. But names I can remember. I can give you all the names one by one. but writing, no, I can't.
I submit to you that what you have presented to this court is nothing more than the common story in circulation about the events in 2003 and 2004 that you collected in your discussions with various persons.
No problem.
I submit to you that you never saw the man you call Ali Kushayeb, neither in Garcila in 2001 or 2010, nor in Tendi, nor in Mukjar in 2004.
I made him, I swear by God.
Mr. Witness, I submit that the first time you heard about Ali Kushayeb was during your discussions with various persons 12 years after the events.
No, no. Even before the start of the war, I heard his name and I saw him by my own eyes, and after the start of the war I saw him again.
Mr. Witness, I'm done with your cross-examination. I want to thank you for being there. Madam President, it's over.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Lachi. Yes.
Your Honor, I have a very brief, very few questions on re-examination with regard to the basis of knowledge, with regard to certain victims that the witness mentioned.
You're entitled to re-examine on anything that's been put in cross-examination. You don't need leave.
Fantastic, fantastic. Mr. Witness, yesterday you mentioned that Umda Adam Hussain was present in the Mukja prison when you were there. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is it correct that you saw him with your own eyes or not?
Yes, I saw him with my own eye.
Then was beaten. Is that something you saw with your own eyes or not?
Not Umda Adam Hussain. Umda Yahya is the one who was beaten, but not Umda Adam Hussain. That's what I said to you. I told you that I saw him being taken out, but I didn't see him being beaten. I didn't see Umda Adam Hussain being beaten. The one that I saw was Umda Yahya. He is the one that I saw getting beaten.
That when people's names were being called out to be put on the vehicles and taken away to be killed, that Umda Adam Hussain's name was called out. Is that correct?
Umda Adam Hussain, as I told you before, he was with me in prison and then his name was called and he was loaded in one of the cars and taken away. He was put in one of the cars.
I just wanted to raise that the specific events that you are referring to were not touched during the cross-examination. So if your questions are about being eyewitness of things, maybe that's the way to do it without entering into that or that detail.
Well, I was assuming that these questions arise out of what you arise out of what you asked yesterday. Are you saying you didn't ask anything about this? Because if so, then there's some basis for the objection.
I have no recollection of having mentioned that during the cross-examination, but it was a long one.
I can clarify. during the cross-examination, Mr. Laushi made mention of certain lists of victims and asked questions as to whether the witness's knowledge about the fate of certain victims was direct knowledge or whether it was obtained from other persons and perpetrators. So that directness or lack thereof is what I am re-examining on.
Carry on then.
Mr. Witness, yesterday you mentioned that when you were in prison in Mukja, that you saw Umda Issa Harun Noor in the prison. Is that correct?
Correct. He was in prison.
And you mentioned that when people's names were being called out to be put on vehicles and taken out and killed, that Umda Issa Harun Noor's name was called out. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
You also mentioned that you were in prison in Mukja with Muhammad Omar Zaruk. Is that correct? And you also mentioned that when people's names were being called out to be taken away from the prison to be killed, that Muhammad Umar Zaruk's name was called out. Is that correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm going to ask Judge Alapini Gansu if she's got any questions.
We're back in open session, Madam President.
Yes.
Sir, you said you saw Ali Kushayeb in Garcilla before the events and you told us about it. Can you tell us around what time it was? I'm not asking for an exact time. Was it daytime or was it nighttime?
During the daytime, midday.
Last question to you, sir. In the attack on Tendi, in which you and other persons fled, you said you saw Ali Kushayeb giving instructions. How did you know he was giving instructions? Were you able to hear what he was saying?
No, I didn't hear what he said at the time, but I saw him pointing with his hand, and the soldiers were following his instructions. They were just following his directions.
So sorry, that actually leads me to another question. Can you please explain your answer when you said Ali Kushayeb was pointing and the soldiers were going? Can you explain to us a bit more, please?
For example, he was standing there and then he points with his hand like that, then one person goes to that direction, and then he points to another direction, so another person goes to the direction he pointed to. So I understood from that he was giving instructions to the soldiers.
And my last question, I promise. You said you could not hear him. Were you able to see him?
Yes, I was on the top, and yes, I saw him from underneath.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you.
I'm afraid that I'm going to stay on the same topic because I'm sure it's just me, but I'm having difficulty in understanding exactly where you were and where the man you say is Ali Kushayeb was in relation to the town of Tendi, when you say you just described him pointing for the soldiers. You are up on a hill behind the town, is that right? The village.
There is a market there, and then there is a mountain close to this market. He was in the market, and we were on top of the mountain. We left all the houses and we climbed up the mountain. So we were on the top of the mountain, and then we saw them arriving in their vehicles, and then he got out of the car and he was pointing with his hand in different directions. But then later we left.
You told us earlier, accepting that distances are difficult for you, working out distances, but you thought it was about 1 kilometer.
We are on the top of the mountain, and they were on the foot of the mountain, so I can't tell exactly how far they were from us, but it was the distance between the top of the mountain and the foot of the mountain.
What makes, I mean, you told us on a number of occasions, and you told Mr. Lauchi quite firmly this. What makes you sure that the person you saw directing the soldiers was the same person you'd seen in the market? That is to say, Ali Kushayeb.
He was the same person.
That incident, how many times do you estimate that you had seen Ali Kushayeb in Garcilla?
We went to Garcilla many times, but the first time I saw him, he sat close to me more than 3 to 4 hours because I was unloading the oil, and he and a group with him were sat close to us.
Who he was, did you see him again on other days at the market before the incident at Tendi?
Just once in the market of Garcilla, and then the second time was in during the attack on Tendi.
Thank you, sir. And then lastly, could you give us some idea of how many people lived in Tendi before the attack? The attack in March of 2004.
The number of people in Tendi, I can't really tell, but it was a big number.
How many houses?
Maybe more than 1,000, or maybe 1,500. It's not a town, it's a village, but it was a very big village.
No. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you, sir. That completes your evidence. We thank you very much for coming to the court and for giving the evidence, and we wish you a safe return home. So thank you very much, and you can leave the court now.
Thank you. I would like to give my greetings to the presiding judge and the other two judges and all the investigators and the interpreters. Thank you very much for helping me and facilitating my journey to the ICC. And I would like to thank you very much. And hopefully I will see you again in good health. Thank you very much.
The court officer. Yes, Mr. Nichols, so not next week, the 25th onwards, how many witnesses have you got for that week? And
Well,
are they, have we checked that they do speak an Arabic that can be understood and understand it themselves?
we have done our best with that, Your Honor. Things have gotten pushed back slightly because of 651, who might have testified today. I believe, and there's a holiday in the middle of that week, so we're aiming at 4 witnesses, I think. At the moment, honestly, I haven't been following it carefully because of I'm in court, but there is some struggling to try to fill the week also without having somebody then have to break for a very long time. You know, it has to kind of end on that Friday, otherwise we're not back till May 9th. So we are working on it, and I'll update as soon as possible. And it may be futile, but again, anything that we could do to bring up these 4 interpreters sooner would make things much easier on everybody, and in particular
Are these,
the witnesses.
are they Rule 68.3 witnesses, all of them, or is one or more viva voce?
Sorry. At the moment, they're all 68.3, but yeah. Because one of them who we thought we were going to bring viva voce may not fit in there. So at the moment, there are 4 68.3.
All right. Well, I mean, I think if you can update the legal officers
And
next
I will our colleagues.
and obviously, yes, and obviously the defence. I really, I hope, appreciating that the holiday lasts till Tuesday, but I think by the middle of next week, the defence certainly will need to know who's coming.
Indeed. And are you saying that P718 is no longer on your list for the next week?
That is the issue we're having right now.
Yeah, good for us to know as soon as possible.
No, I
obviously.
understand. It'll be before the middle of next week. We'll keep working on this over the holiday.
Yeah.
And if it does not come, who would come in his place?
Well, I think you have to, Mr. Lightshee, I think you better discuss that with Mr. Nichols, and
Fair enough.
the chamber will just take what it's given. All right. Then there are still a couple of there's still a couple of outstanding matters. There's a joint submission, I think, on the registry reply that's going to come at some stage, and we've still got your Rule 68.2c matter to deal with, and I think that's And one Rule 35. Yeah.
Yes, there's a regulation
Regulation
35, which I
sorry.
think is due next Tuesday.
Yes, you've got to respond to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's right that the joint submissions has in fact just been filed in the course of the last session, so that should be with you very, very shortly.
Right. Yes, well, thank you all very much. Can I thank, as I already mentioned, and Mr. Nichols was also going to mention, the interpreters who this week done a very good job, and indeed the live note seems to have perhaps been better in the sense of more accurate, even uncorrected, than it was before. And can I wish everybody a happy Easter, and see you in whatever it is, 10 days' time. Can I say that it's one of the problems I know of this court trying to accommodate so many trials is the uneven sitting. But I mean, I'm afraid that's it. Yes, thank you very much. So the next session will be 25th of April.
All right, will you believe it?